concerned with is the substance of life, the pith of reality. If I had to sum up my work, that's it really. I'm taking the pith out of reality. I wrote that parody of a television arts documentary 10 years ago, and in the naivety of what I now realise was my youth, a season that eluded me while it was actually going on, I imagined that at one stroke I had disposed of the form. Nobody would dare do it quite like that anymore. But of course they would, and they have, and what's more, they do. Can there be a slag heap north of the Trent up which ardent young directors from Omnibus, Aquarius, or Second House have not flogged their disgruntled camera crews in pursuit of that forward-retreating figure, the artist? One half expects to see Ivy Compton Burnett herself stumbling up the slurry with her reticule between her teeth, on the strength of having spent a fortnight in Halifax when she was 5. They would have filmed Proust down a cork-lined coal mine had he lived. And always, of course, it is art as struggle, art as pain, art as redemption and transcendence, not art as a relatively easy way of keeping the wolf from the door, or art as actually quite a nice thing to be doing. Always it has to be torture. True, if you find yourself born in Barnsley and then set your sights on being Virginia Woolf, it's not going to be roses all the way. Or think of Dame Ivy wrestling with a novel called A Pit and Its Pitfalls. But what if one was born in Hendon? Or how do you wrench life in Basingstoke into the stuff of art? Or Canberra? The fact is, northern writers like to have it both ways. A nice middle-class background was no longer in vogue by the time I started to write. No longer in vogue with a capital V either. Early in 1960, when my colleagues and I were writing the review that was to end up as Beyond the Fringe, we were photographed for that magazine. We sped in a large Daimler to North Acton, where the photographer spent some time finding a setting appropriately stark and gritty for the enterprise on which we were to embark. We ended up gloomy and purposeful against a background of cooling towers and derelict factories. I've never done one of those film portraits I started off by parodying, though the urge is strong, even without the lure of those 8 records and one luxury item apart from the Bible and Shakespeare. I think my antithesis eterna would plump for a chemical toilet. It's always gratifying to be asked to explain yourself, if only because it makes you feel there's maybe something to explain. And I admit, too, that from time to time I catch myself slightly overstating my working-class origins, taking my background down the social scale a peg or two. It's a mild form of inverted snobbery, which Richard Hoggart might dignify by calling it groping for the remnants of a tradition. As the man says in the sketch, it's a question of belonging. You'd like to think you belong somewhere distinctive, whether it's a place or a class, but you know you're kidding yourself. However, I see that opens up another vast area of humbug and self-indulgence, namely the writer as rootless man, so I think I'd better stop and go home, wherever that is. In the 6th form at my school, one of my friends was a gentle, slightly older boy, John Totterdil, with whom I shared an interest in architecture. He lived in West Park, one of the smarter suburbs in Leeds, the house big and detached, where one day he asked me back to tea. The sitting-room was vast, and fitted out with all the accoutrements of middle-class living, including the obligatory nest of tables. Mrs. Totterdil put them out ready for our tea, but even though they weren't particularly sturdy, I took them to be stools rather than tables, and so, momentarily, perched on one. A look of alarm must have crossed Mrs. Totterdil's face as this lumpen boy bore down on the delicate Edwardian legs, because I instantly realized my mistake, and then had to pretend I'd only perched there because I was so much at my ease, had to pass off my solecism as the product of a nonchalance I certainly didn't feel. John Totterdil is dead, his mother is dead, so the only person who remembers this incident is me. But the embarrassment lives on, and thinking of it, I grow hot and confused, and talk to myself as I type. I don't know that love survives the grave, but embarrassment certainly does.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.